So, welcome to the sixth and last video in this course, Buddhist meditation, going further, going deeper. We've already looked at the active meditation practices, the mindfulness of the body, the mindfulness of breathing, metta bhavana, and the receptive practices that help us work on the receptive side in our meditation, formless meditation, and just sitting. And last week, we looked at the hindrances to meditation: desire for sensory experience, hatred, restlessness and anxiety, sloth and torpor, and doubt, sometimes doubt and indecision. And our task was to become more aware of these hindrances in our meditation, in our everyday life. As a foundation for this week, our theme being working in meditation. More precisely, how to work with these very hindrances in meditation. So, working in meditation. Sometimes people say they don't experience the hindrances very much. I think if that's the case, if we don't experience the hindrances, then we are in a highly concentrated, emotionally very positive state of mind. If we're not in such a state of mind, the reality of the situation is that we're not really aware of the hindrances. And that's not surprising. They're hard to spot. Other times people can say what hinders their meditation, it's noises around us. We can't get comfortable. Something scratches or hurts. Or there's just an endless stream of thoughts. But it would be better to say that these are manifestations of the hindrances, outer signs of the hindrances, and the hindrances themselves are deeper energies, deeper emotions, below the surface. And because of these deeper energies and emotions, the noises, the physical discomfort, the thoughts hinder our meditation. So we'll be looking at how to overcome the hindrances. I would like just to say that yes, it is worthwhile as well trying to find a quiet place to meditate in, and it's certainly very worthwhile having a good posture where we feel comfortable. But that's another question. Here, the question is overcoming the hindrances. And like looking at two sides of the same coin, it means developing highly concentrated and emotionally positive states of mind. And we can look at working on the hindrances in two ways. First, antidotes to the hindrances. And secondly, looking for the positive factors of this concentrated and emotionally positive state of mind. But just as a little bit of an introduction, we can say that if we're under the influence of a hindrance, the first step is really just to become aware of it, acknowledge that it's there, name it. Like we probably learned the first time we meditated. If we've done that, we can just try coming back to the object of meditation. Maybe that will be enough. Or we could try the receptive approach. The approach that we worked on more consciously when we looked at formless meditation and just sitting. But if that still hasn't worked, then we can try one of these antidotes to the hindrances. There's a list of 5 antidotes that come from the same group of teachings in the Pali Canon as the 5 hindrances themselves. And the 5 images that we looked at of being free from the hindrances, like a man freed from debt, well again after being ill, freed from slavery, freed from prison, or come to the end of a dangerous journey in safety again. So let's look at these 5 antidotes to the hindrances. So there are 5 antidotes to the hindrances, and they come in a specific order. It's recommended to try the first method first. And if that doesn't work, going on to the second. If that doesn't work, going on to the third. Then trying the fourth and the 5th last. So we'll look at them one by one, in that order. And then we'll have a chance to try them out in practice during a short meditation. So the first antidote to the hindrances is considering the consequences of our hindrance. For example, we're in a state of hatred. What would it be like if we allow our hatred to freely flow in us? Today, tomorrow, next week, 10 years' time at the end of our lives. How would we continue to speak, act, feel? And what effect would that have on others if we freely let our hatred flow? How would they act and speak with us? What kind of people would we attract to us? What kind of people would we repel? Do we want hatred to be the dominating influence of our lives? Do we want that to be our destiny? So in this way we can consider the consequences of the hindrance. And this is considered the best way to work in meditation so the hindrance loses its force. So if that doesn't work, considering the consequences doesn't work, the second approach is cultivating the opposite. For example, the quality of restlessness and the quality of being at peace. You can't be restless and at peace at the same time. They can't exist in a mind at the same time. So if we can develop a state of peacefulness, we'll have to overcome the restlessness. So what we can do is, if we are in a state of restlessness, is looking for the seeds of peace. Tiny little glimpses or tiny little experiences of peacefulness in our experience somewhere. Maybe we feel restless as a whole, but our hands feel at peace and relaxed and calm. So we can look for these experiences that go against the general trend of our feeling of restlessness. And they're seeds that we can grow with rain. Seeds grow with rain, and we can grow these seeds with the rain of our attention, our warm, open attention. And a tiny seed can grow into a great oak tree. So in this way we can cultivate the opposite, looking for the seeds that create a state of peace when we experience restlessness, for example. But if that doesn't work, cultivating the opposite, the third antidote to the hindrances is the blue sky mind. We can imagine our mind like a clear blue sky, brilliantly blue and stretching out in all directions of space. And we can treat the hindrances and we can see, that the hindrances give rise to negative thoughts, which we can experience, which we can take as clouds that float across our clear blue sky, the clear blue sky of our mind. We can watch these clouds come, we can watch them go. We don't need to attach to them, get upset by them. They weren't always there. They appeared out of nowhere. And sooner or later they will disappear again into nowhere. So in that way, we can develop our mind like the clear blue sky, the brilliant blue sky. But if the blue sky mind approach hasn't worked, we can go on to the fourth antidote to the hindrances. Simply put, suppression. It means we can overcome a hindrance or the manifestation of a hindrance by an effort of will. The Buddha said we can simply grit our teeth and force the hindrance out. It's important to say here that suppression isn't repression. Repression is unconscious or semi-conscious. It's the refusal to experience something, or the inability to experience something. And of course, it's psychologically harmful, as you probably are very well aware. Suppression, on the other hand, is a conscious action, a conscious effort of will. And if the previous methods haven't worked, we can try suppression to overcome the hindrance. And if suppression doesn't work, the fifth method is called going for refuge, the last resort. If all else fails, the sutras tell us we can simply go for refuge to the Buddha. Going for refuge is a complex subject. We'll be looking at it much more fully in the fourth course. But it's enough to say here that we can just go for refuge to the Buddha, bring the Buddha to mind, ask for his help, his mercy maybe, and in that way work with the hindrance. So these are our 5 antidotes, considering the consequences, cultivating the opposite, a blue sky mind, suppression, and going for refuge. We can now try them in action in the course of a meditation practice. So now, let's meditate. Put the bolster behind my back just to help me sit up straight. Keep my posture good. And I suggest we choose now a practice to do. Maybe being aware of the body, being aware of the breath, perhaps doing the metta bhavana. And what to do next, I'll be mentioning that during the meditation. So closing your eyes when you feel ready to do so. Letting your awareness expand outwards into the room. Becoming aware of the sounds that are there, and the sounds beyond your room. And drawing your attention in again to your body seated here. Allowing yourself to settle and relax. And looking for the positive and pleasant experiences present in your body now. moving your attention to your chosen object of meditation. Staying with your object of meditation. And asking yourself a very important question. What's hindering my meditation? Am I focusing on the object right now? Is it desire for sensual experience? Or hatred? Restlessness and anxiety? Or sloth and torpor? Or doubt? Once we have a feeling for what our hindrance is, let's try the first antidote to the hindrances. Let's try considering the consequences of giving in to this hindrance. Let's do it now. So trying the first antidote. How has that been? Was there any change? We can try now using the second antidote. But first, let's ask, what's our hindrance now? Do we have a new hindrance? Or is it the same as it was? once we have a feeling for the hindrance as it is right now, let's try the second antidote, cultivating the opposite. Let's do it now. And now, preparing to move on to the third antidote. But first, asking, what's our main hindrance now? Has it changed? Giving us a moment to contact what our main hindrance is now. And when we've done that, moving on to our mind. It's a brilliant, clear blue sky, expanding out in all directions of space. The thoughts that are manifestations of the hindrances, expressions of the hindrances, appear like clouds that disappear again. Let us watch our minds. Now, preparing to try using the fourth antidote for the hindrances. But first asking, what is our main hindrance now? Has it changed? Has something new arose? And with our main hindrance, trying suppression, an effort or will to overcome it. And preparing to use the fifth and final antidote. Firstly asking, what's our main hindrance now? Has it changed? Has something new arisen? And with our hindrance, our main hindrance right now, we use the fifth method, going for refuge to the Buddha, bringing the Buddha to mind, asking for his help, his mercy even. And now, starting to prepare to bring the practice to a close, expanding our awareness out, include the whole of our body, seated here, and expanding our awareness out beyond our bodies, into the room and beyond, listening to all the sounds around us, the gentle, innocent little sounds. And when you're ready, slowly and gently, opening your eyes to finish the practice. So, no need for the bolster. You can sit back a little bit for a while. So, as I said, when the hindrances have been overcome, we'll find ourselves in a highly concentrated and emotionally positive state of mind, a higher state of mind, a higher state of consciousness, that in Buddhism is called the state of these states, it's called the dhyanas. So let's look at the dhyanas in a little more detail. Firstly, we'll look at a definition of what they are. The definition, thanks to Marian Mattix. Dhyanas are accessed through the door of the mind. When we enter the realms of experience beyond those of the senses and a rational mind. I'll just repeat that. The dhyanas are accessed through the door of the mind when we enter the realms of experience beyond those of the senses and the rational mind. To give a little bit of a further analysis, I said these states because actually they can be analysed into two sets of 4 dhyanas. Sometimes the second list of 4 dhyanas is in fact given as 5, just to warn us that we shouldn't take them too rigidly and too literally. But for us, it'll be enough to look at the first 4 for now. Each of the dhyanas is progressively more aware and concentrated, and more positive than a previous one. We experience them, we get to know them best of all through our own meditative experience, of course. But the Buddhist tradition gives us 2 methods which communicate their nature to us, by means of images and by means of psychological factors. And we'll look at both of them in turn. So, first of all, we'll look at the dhyanas in terms of images. But before we do, I'd like to say a word about communicating by images in general. Communicating through images is something complex, multidimensional. Understanding an image, it's like getting to know a work of art. It's not mere logic. Understanding an image or a work of art a work of art better, doesn't happen all at once. We can come to it again and again, and over time unearth new dimensions, like books we read again and again, every time noticing something new. You could even say, the deeper the work of art, the longer it will take us to uncover all its dimensions, and the longer it will take to penetrate to its essence. Likewise, with an image, it takes time. We can access the different dimensions of meaning of the images in different ways. We can access them rationally. We can access the meaning emotionally. We can analyze the meaning psychologically and spiritually. And sometimes truth, sometimes reality can shine through subtly through the image, like light from a lamp. Because of their nature, we'll look at these images for the dhyana, for the dhyanas, while we're meditating, so we can reflect on them more deeply. So, we'll get ready to meditate once again. Deciding to focus during the meditation either on your body or the breath, whatever you prefer. Starting our meditation. Images for the dhyanas. The Rupa dhyanas. The dhyanas of the world of form. Image for the first dhyana. Higher, a superconscious state of mind. Imagine a skilled bath attendant or his apprentice mixing soap powder with water. Thoroughly mixing soap powder with water. So that all the soap powder is thoroughly mixed with water, soaked with water, and no part of it left untouched. Just so, the meditator fills his body with rapture and bliss. with rapture and bliss arising from seclusion. What would that feel like in your meditation? Our experience can deepen further, so the image changes. We see a lake, but this lake doesn't have any streams flowing into it. This lake is somewhere where rain doesn't fall. This lake is filled only by an underground spring, fed by the purest water from the deepest spot. Not even the smallest part of this lake is not filled by the pure spring water. This is our image for the second dhyana. And just so, the meditator fills his body with rapture and joy arising from concentration. How would that feel in your meditation? But our experience can deepen, so the image changes. We see a beautiful lotus flower blooming in the water. The lotus flower lives in the water, under the surface of the water. It takes nourishment from the depths. its flowers and roots are totally submerged by the purest water of the lake. With no place where they're not in contact with this pure water. This is our image for the third dhyana. And just so, the meditator fills their body with bliss, but without rapture, just bliss. What would that feel like in your meditation? But our experience can deepen, so the image changes. Imagine a man just out of a steaming hot bath, totally clean. And he's covered from head to toe by a radiant white sheet. So not the smallest part of his body is not covered by this radiant white sheet. This is an image of the fourth dhyana. And just so, the meditator sits in a state of equanimity and concentration. How would that feel like in your meditation? Now, preparing to bring the practice to a close. And when you're ready, slowly and gently, opening your eyes to finish the practice. So we've looked at the dhyanas in terms of images during the practice of meditation. And now we'll move on to the psychological factors present in the dhyanas. I'd like to say that both ways of looking at them, both ways of looking at the dhyanas, both images and psychological factors, express one and the same experience. So what are these factors? The first factor is thought. In the scriptures it's said to be initial thought and sustained thought. Maybe it'd be better to say clear and concentrated thought, emotionally positive thought. You might be surprised. After all, people often come to meditation classes saying they want to stop thinking, or think that meditation means no thinking. But clear and concentrated thought, emotionally positive thought, is enjoyable by nature. It's flexible, directed, creative, and it can lead on to more concentrated states later on without thought. But at this stage, clear and concentrated thought, emotionally positive thought, is an aid to the concentrated mind. Perhaps it would be more correct to say it is the concentrated mind. It certainly is the first psychological factor of the dhyanas. And what's the second factor? Rapture. Rapture meaning physical pleasure. Sometimes we experience this by having goosebumps or tears coming to our eyes. It can range from mild to intense. When our body relaxes and emotional blocks and inner tensions and conflicts are overcome. And what's the third factor? The third factor is bliss. Bliss meaning here just mental pleasure, exclusively mental pleasure, again ranging from mild to intense. And the fourth factor, it's one-pointedness of mind. This is a fourth factor of the dhyanas. All our energies are unified and flow harmoniously and powerfully together. It's very different from forced concentration where we make an effort of will to stay with something. One-pointedness is a very refined, dynamic, spiritual experience. And the emotional aspect of one-pointedness is equanimity. So these are the four factors, the four psychological factors of the dhyanas. Nearly got unplugged there. And how does the psychological factors of the dhyanas fit into the 4 dhyanas? Before I specifically answer this question, I'd like to mention that each factor we can consider as a seed that could be present in our experience whenever we meditate. It might be very small, it might be easy to miss, but it's there. And with our warm and open attention, it can grow. Just like any seed can grow into a great oak. So any one of these dhyana factors, if we spot them in our experience, can be developed and cultivated, nurtured. In the first dhyana, we experience all 4 factors: thought, rapture, bliss, and one-pointedness. The first dhyana corresponding to the image of soap powder and water thoroughly mixed. In the second dhyana, a more intense experience, thought fades away, but the other 3 factors remain: rapture, bliss, and one-pointedness. The image being the lake fed by an underground spring. In the third dhyana, rapture fades away. Our experience of our body becomes peripheral, if not non-existent, and only bliss on a mental level is left, like the lotus immersed in the water of a lake. In the fourth dhyana, even the bliss fades away, even the experience of mental pleasure fades away. And the state that we're left in, the one-pointed state, the equanimous, the state of equanimity, is said to be even more pleasurable than bliss. And our image is, of course, the man, freshly bathed, dressed in a radiant white sheet, covered in a radiant white sheet. So these are how the psychological factors of dhyana progressively change when our meditation practice gets ever more intense and concentrated and positive. So well, we're nearly at the end of this video, nearly at the end of this course. I'd like to encourage you to carry on practicing in everyday life and in meditation, using all the content of this course, both in your meditation practices and in everyday life. and specifically for the next week in your groups, Telegram or WhatsApp, to look at the report back, share with us your experience of working with the hindrances and experience of dhyana. The theme for the next course is looking at what we can do in everyday life to develop the same aware and positive mental states that we work on in meditation to do. Just 30 minutes a day in meditation, although it's good, it's not enough. And we'll be looking at how doing this, developing aware and positive states in everyday life can benefit our meditation practice, and how to bring what we contact in our meditation practice into our everyday lives. This topic, in a single word, is what we talk about when we talk about Buddhist ethics. So that's what's coming up next. But for the moment, it just leaves me to thank you for your participation. And I hope that you've deeply benefited from the videos, and especially your own practice, your own efforts to practice these teachings for the benefit of yourselves and everybody around you, and even the whole world. Thank you.